You're watching the Daily Climate Show on Sky News. On today's programme, families could be given cash to help offset their energy bills under plans being considered by the government. The sinking brothel of Bangladesh. We report from Banishanta, where climate change has pushed many women into prostitution. And how your pension could help save the planet. Hello and welcome to the UK's only daily climate news show, where we track the changes happening to our world right now and meet those developing the solutions. Now, the government is considering paying families to help them offset the rising cost of gas bills and encourage a switch to green energy. Now, around 19 million homes in the UK need to be made more efficient in order for the government to hit its 2050 net zero target. Now, under the proposed scheme, low and middle income families would be paid a set amount to compensate for increases in gas bills that will come from the drive to cut emissions. It would also be funded by a new carbon tax, and all families would be paid the same regardless of their individual emissions. It means households who switch to cheaper green energy would still get the full payment, meaning that they could pocket the difference. Well, here to explain more is our climate correspondent, Hannah Thomas-Peter. So, Hannah, tell us more about how this scheme might work.
Well, this is, as you said, part of a government strategy to address a really big logistical problem, which is that we've got 19 million homes in this country that need to essentially be given a green retrofit in the coming years if the government is to have any chance at all of hitting its net zero emissions by 2050 target, the one that we hear so much about. Now, right now, there's a really complicated set of schemes and potential grants that you can apply for if you want to get a heat pump, for example, or if you want to put special insulation in your homes. But there's not one overarching homes and heating policy. Just listen to one person we've spoken to about the challenges of green retrofits when you're sort of doing it on your own without government help.
I would guess that the renovations so far are in the £10,000 to £20,000 range. I've done a lot of the work myself and with the help of friends and family. So I imagine that it could be a bit more than that. I would say that this is a fairly small house, and there are much larger homes that require a much deeper retrofit. So the cost can rise.
So Boris Johnson knows that he has got to find a way to incentivise green behaviour. And it's not just a practical problem, it's a political one as well. This scheme that the government is considering is about making sure that all those new Conservative voters in particular, low-income homeowners in particular, aren't suddenly faced with unreasonably high costs as this country races to go green.
Hannah, thank you. And you can find out more about how the scheme would work on our website. Just head to skynews.com/climate. Let's take a look now at the day's other climate news. And the Australian government says there are grounds to appeal a judgment declaring young people must be protected from pollutants from a coal mine expansion if approved. The judge said the country's Environment Minister, Susan Ley, must take reasonable care to avoid causing personal injury or death to those under 18. The UK is ranked 6th in the world for the share of electricity generated by wind and solar. These renewables accounted for 29% of Britain's electricity production last year, according to analysis by the think tank Ember. Electricity generated by wind and solar has doubled over the last 5 years and now provides almost a tenth of the world's electricity. The Co-op has introduced in-store recycling across the UK in a bid to reduce plastic waste. The launch of the recycling points follows a successful trial in 50 stores that saw 86% of customers use the service. Crisp packets and yoghurt lids are amongst the items that can be collected through the scheme, which also accepts food packaging from other retailers. The University of Bristol has become the first university in the world to achieve institutional Green Labs certification. It means the university's laboratories are reducing the impact on the climate through using more efficient equipment and better waste management. Although labs are essential for climate research, they have 5 times more environmental impact compared to office spaces. And the London Sinfonietta Orchestra are staging a concert totally off-grid. Instead, the performance, called Houses Slide, will be powered entirely by bicycles. 16 bikes will be used to generate energy for the performance, which explores one woman's journey tackling the climate crisis. Cyclists will need to pedal non-stop for 40 minutes during the show, which is held at London's Royal Festival Hall. Bangladesh is one of the world's most densely populated countries and is hugely vulnerable to climate change. Over a quarter of the population lives on the coast. That's around 45 million people. And flooding caused by rising sea levels and made worse by cyclones is a huge problem. Last year alone, 4.4 million internal displacements in the country were caused by disasters. Now, that number accounts for people sometimes displaced more than once due to multiple extreme weather events. Now, we heard last week from the capital, Dhaka, where families are forced into living in slums far from their families and communities. Others end up in even more difficult circumstances. Some women, on the run from rising sea levels, have been pushed into a life of prostitution. And now, near the village of Banishanta, they're in danger of being trapped by the water again. From Where Sky's Katerina Vitozzi reports.
The name of this place is Banishanta. It means a message of calm. But on this narrow strip of land, there is little peace. These huts form one of the country's oldest brothels. Here, women call themselves girls. Many have been trafficked, some because of the impact of climate change. When Pervin was 15, her family's coastal home and farm were destroyed through rising sea levels. The loss made the family desperate, which made Pervin a target for sex traffickers.
আমি আর যাইনি এখানেই রয়ে গেছি আমার এক ছেলে আছে এক মেয়ে আছে সেই মেয়ের কাছে আমি কেবল আইছি গার্মেন্টস দেওয়ার কথা বললে আনছে তারপর আর কি হবে এখানে নিয়ে এসে এখানে আইনা দিয়ে চলে গেছে
Around 100 women work in Banishanta, and although brothels are legal in Bangladesh, they are still taboo. Sex workers and their children are hugely stigmatised. Here, at least, there is a sense of community, but climate change is eroding that too. Their land is disappearing, chipped away by rising sea levels and hit by a vicious cyclone last year. The chief madam here tells us they can't move further back. They're stuck between a river that floods them to the front and behind a village that doesn't want them and where they couldn't work. Climate change affects us all, but it also exposes vulnerabilities and affects some so much more than others. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News in Banishanta, Bangladesh.
And you can see more from Bangladesh on our weekly digital show. We go behind the scenes of Katerina's trip to a country on the front line of the climate crisis. That's available on Sky News social channels, our app and website. Now, from going vegan to reducing the amount of flights you take, many of us are making small changes to the way we live our lives to help save the planet. But what about choosing to go green with your pension? Moving your investments to sustainable funds could have a far greater impact on the environment, according to the campaign group Make My Money Matter. Now, they estimate that it could save 19 tonnes of carbon per year, more than double the average UK carbon footprint. Well, joining me now is Richard Curtis, film director and co-founder of Make My Money Matter. Welcome to you, Richard Curtis. You're known, of course, for your film directing. So what's got you interested in green pensions?
Oh, look, you know, the other thing I've done is I started Red Nose Day, and I'm a UN advocate for the sustainable goals. And I'm as passionate as most people, you know, suddenly are about climate and everything that we can actually do about it, rather than just hoping that our politicians take action faster. And so I got really interested in the issue of financial footprint having an effect on your carbon footprint.
Well, yes, and it's perhaps not the most obvious weapon against climate change, but what difference do you think that having a green pension can make?
Well, it's incredible, actually, because all the money that we've got in pensions is invested. I don't think when I started looking into this, I knew even that, which means that you have a choice to invest in all the companies, all the things that you can make a difference, so your money won't be contributing to deforestation, it'll be contributing to renewable energy. You'll be in affordable housing, you'll be supporting all sorts of things that can really help the planet without doing anything apart from making the initial demand or choice to change your pension into a sustainable one. So it's literally the biggest weapon that most individuals have to personally have an effect on climate change.
Is it a complicated process, though, switching your pension to being sustainable? How do you know whether or not it is?
Well, your pension provider knows, and it can be complicated. It can be easy. My instinct is that it's easy for people who have financial advisors to say, this is what I want. Most people have their pensions through their companies, and companies are increasingly seeing that as part of their sustainable responsibilities. So the thing is to ask, and with any luck now, an increasing number of pension providers will say, oh yeah, well look, if that's what you want, we won't give you a default pension that may be in arms and gambling and deforestation and fossil fuels. We'll give one which is in renewable housing, renewable energy, sustainable food and all those things. So it's part of a process that is gradually becoming easier.
Well, Richard Curtis, really interesting to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
You're really welcome. Good to talk to you.
That's everything from us for this week, but don't forget to check out ClimateCast over the weekend. And in the latest episode, find out what climate change and donuts have got in common. You can find that wherever you normally get your podcasts from. Thanks for watching and see you next week.